Hello lovely people, I'm Stella from Stella's Yarn Universe. In this Amigurumi tutorial, we'll crochet this little otter. Maybe you've seen my recent poll. I received so many lovely suggestions from you for animals to crochet, and they're all really cute and they're all, I'm excited to make them all, but sometimes I get overwhelmed because I'm not sure which one to do first, and so I just picked 5 of those and made a little poll just to figure out if you're even interested in any of them, and it turned out you're actually interested in all of them, so it was quite even, but the otter had slightly more votes, so that just helped me decide on which one to do first. So I thought I start with the otter, but the other animals that I mentioned I will do as well because there was interest in all of them. And if your animal suggestion wasn't on the list, don't worry about that, because I have a long list and that was just 5 of them. if there were options to add more animals, then I would have done that, but the maximum was 5. So for the next poll, I will add different animals from the list. But yeah, for now I have plenty of animals to crochet, so thank you for the suggestions. Of course, keep them coming. I'm always happy to write them down and then crochet them whenever I get the chance. So without further ado, let's go ahead and crochet our little otter. For this project, we need DK or light worsted yarn, and I'm using Paintbox Yarn's Cotton DK in Soft Fudge. If you'd like to use the same, you can find the link in the description box below. And I'm using this lighter brown shade just so you can better see what I'm doing, but of course you can go ahead and use a darker brown for it. Not a problem at all. And then we'll be needing a 2.5mm hook or something similar, so you could be using a C2, which is a 2.75mm, or a B1, which is a 2.25mm hook. And yeah, the C2 is fine. Unless you crochet very loosely, then going for a B1 will help you make smaller stitches for the amigurumi. And yeah, this size in UK terms, it's a size 12, but you can also go for size 13 if you tend to crochet quite loosely. And then we need some fiber fill, safety eyes. I ran out of my usual size, which is 5mm, so I'm going for these 6mm eyes. But you can also embroider the eyes using black embroidery floss. You'll need it anyway to embroider the nose and mouth. And then I'll also be using this cream color embroidery floss for the whiskers. Then we need a yarn needle, and I love the one with the bent tip for sewing on body parts, although it's almost a no-sew pattern, so only the head is crocheted to the body, that's all, but still very useful even for weaving in ends. Then we need an embroidery needle to make the embroidery and to attach the whiskers. I have 2 different sizes. I mean, this is an embroidery needle, and it's important that it's pointy because we want to stitch through the fibers. And then for the whiskers, I needed a finer one, so this is actually a sewing needle with a fairly large eye. Then we need a stitch marker and pins, probably 2 will be enough. Scissors, of course, and if you have pliers, that's great. If not, don't worry about it. It's just sometimes helpful when we make embroideries on our amigurumi and the needle gets stuck. These flat pliers help pulling them out. And then also for the whiskers, that's a technique I used for my cat tutorial, the standing cat that I made. So if you made that one, then you already know what's up. I just need some glue. It doesn't have to be super glue. I just happen to have super glue. That's just for the whiskers to you know, make sure they don't come off, and also to give them more strength because they're otherwise a bit floppy. And then we also need a rubber glove or something that we can apply the glue with. So we definitely shouldn't use our bare hands for this. And I think that's all we need. So let's get started. We start with the legs, and we'll do the forelegs first. So we begin with the magic ring, and the thing to keep in mind is we leave the yarn end quite long. I don't know, maybe 15 centimeters. Now how many inches are that? Like 4 or 5 inches. 15, I bet it's more, it's like 6 inches, isn't it? Anything from 10 to 15 centimeters, 4 to 6 inches should be enough. It's just that we need this later on. So then we start with round 1, and in round 1 we single crochet 8 in the magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then we close the magic ring, but before I just pull through this yarn end because we need it on the outside of our work later on. Then we close the magic ring. And in round 2, we crochet in the back loops only. So we start with 1 single crochet in the first back loop. 1 and 2, oops. And then we decrease, but in the back loops instead of the front loops. So we go through the first back loop, and then it can sometimes be tricky to get in the second back loop. You can manage it if you don't crochet too tightly, but if it's tricky, there's a little trick. So you can get your hook in between the front and back loop of the next stitch, and then turn your hook this way 180 degrees, and this way you should easily get under the second back loop. Then we pick up the yarn and pull it through the 2 back loops. Now the first one is easy, but the second one we need to really twist our hook to get it through. Then we have 2 loops remaining on our hook, and we pick up the yarn and pull it through those 2. So that's the back loop decrease, and then we repeat all of these steps once more. So 2 single crochet, 1 in each of the next 2 back loops. And then we have 1 more back loop crochet to go. First back loop, and then we get our hook through the second back loop again. There we go. Again, like in my last video, you may hear strange sounds. That's just my husband packing, because we'll be moving very soon. In fact, when you watch this video, we will have moved. I'm recording a few videos in advance so that I don't run out of projects to crochet with you while I don't have any internet. So if you hear strange noises, my apologies, but that's the reason. I thought anyway, better to get you some videos rather than not doing it because of the noise. So that's round 2 done, and now in round 3 we single crochet in both loops just as usual, and we single crochet in all 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, oops, 4, split my yarn there, 5 and 6, and that's the foreleg done already. Well, not quite, but the crochet part is done, so we can fasten it off here. And now we use this yarn end that we left in the beginning when making the magic ring to shape the paw a little bit. So I just thread it on my yarn needle. And now we want to flatten the paw a little bit. Like this. So here I would say where the yarn end comes out, that's probably the back of the leg. So on the opposite side I just make 3 stitches close to each other just to define the paws a little bit better. So this is the first one. Then close to it I make another one, and I stitch through to the center of the magic ring. It's 2, pull nice and tight, and 1 more, close next to it, stitching through the center of the magic ring. And that's it. So now when we look at the leg from the side, it looks more like there's a tiny little paw rather than just a leg. So now we can go ahead and weave in this yarn end with a few stitches. Just to secure that. Oops. And then you can stitch through the opening if you like. And later we'll cut this end shorter, or maybe we use it as a very light filling for the leg, although they don't really need to be filled. No, just to use it in some way. So this is the foreleg done. You can go back to whichever minute. I'm gonna write here in the top, or even easier, open the description box below and then click on the clickable timestamp for the forelegs to crochet the second one. Now for the hind legs, we actually repeat the same steps, so you can actually make 2 more of the forelegs. Just don't fasten off, because we add 1 extra round for the hind legs. So here I've done round 1, 2, 3, the same way I crocheted the forelegs, but now for the hind legs I don't fasten off, I add an extra round. And in this round we start with 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and then we increase. So 2 single crochet in here, and then we repeat these steps. So 2 single crochet, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and 1 increase in the last stitch. So in this one here we increase, and that's the hind leg done. So here we can fasten off, and now all we do is we just repeat the step in which we define the paw a little bit better. So we just thread this long yarn end, and then we just make our 3 stitches through the first 2 rounds. 1, then close next to it, oops, 2, and the third one, stitching through the center of the magic ring. That's it. So this is our little hind leg. Now we just weave in this yarn end with a few stitches as we did before for the forelegs, and then you can go ahead and crochet a second hind leg, and next we continue with the body. So now we crochet the belly, and for that we start with a chain of 6. So just make a little loop, and then we chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we single crochet in the next 4 chains, starting in this one here. Second chain from our hook, where we usually start when crocheting in chains. Then second single crochet in the next chain, a third one in the next, and a 4th single crochet in the next chain. Now in the last chain here we single crochet 4, 2 from this side, 1 and 2, and then we turn our work around, and the other 2 single crochet go in the same chain but on the other side. 1 and 2. So now we made 4 single crochet in here, and it's like a half circle going around in the other direction, like a U-turn. And then we single crochet in the other side of the chains now. So we single crochet 3, 1 in here on this other side, It's one, then the next one goes in here, and the next one in here. And now here in this first chain that we crocheted in at the beginning of the round, in here we single crochet 3 more. 1, 2, 3. So now we should have a round of 14 stitches. And here in the last one, I just place my stitch marker. And now in the next round, we already start attaching the legs. So here where we have the stitch marker, this is now the back. And here where we have the yarn end, this is now the front of the body. So if you look at it from the side, we'll attach the hind legs here with the paws pointing forward, and then we'll attach the forelegs here in the front, again with the paws facing forward, of course. And so we start by attaching a hind leg, and we need to attach it somewhere on the inside of the leg in order for it to point forward in this direction. So this is always a little bit trial and error for me, figuring out where to start joining it. It doesn't matter at all where the end, like where the last stitch of the leg is. You can join anywhere you think would be correct. I go in this last stitch, I try this just because it's on the inside of the leg, a little bit more toward the back, and that tends to work best. Let's see. So I just insert my hook through this stitch of the hind leg and single crochet. And because it was the last stitch of the round of the leg, the stitch is loosening up a bit now, so I need to pull this yarn end of the leg just to tighten it again, and then I crochet all around the leg, so 7 more single crochet. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then here in the next stitch, or the first stitch of the round of the belly, in there we single crochet 1, now we should be able to see if the leg is pointing in the right direction. Seems like it's pointing forward, slightly outward, but I think that's good. As long as I do the same for the other hind leg, I think it will look good. Let's see, shall I keep it this way? I think I keep it this way. So now we have 4 more single crochet, 5 altogether. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we join the first foreleg. So again, this one we want to point forward. So we just figure out where to join. I'm gonna try this stitch here. So again, somewhere on the inside of the leg, but further toward the back, and let's just see how that goes. And then we single crochet in all stitches of the foreleg. So 6 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we single crochet in the next stitch of the round here. 1 for now, just to see how the leg looks. And I think that looks good. I think it's pointing straight forward, so that's good. So now we single crochet 1 more, and then we already join the other foreleg. So with this one, I also go, now the inside of the leg is obviously on the other side, and I try to start with this stitch here. Let's see how it goes. And then once again we single crochet all around the foreleg, so 6. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we single crochet in the next stitch of the round. So this one we already crocheted in, so this here is the next one. Let's see how the foreleg looks. It seems like it's pointing in the right direction. But I just want to make sure, because later it's so difficult to change. But I think that's looking good. So then we single crochet 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we join the last leg, the second hind leg. So this one should point this way and slightly outward like the other one, because that's just how mine turned out. So I want this one to turn out the same way. So I'll just make the first single crochet. Let's just try here. Then we single crochet. Now we have lots of yarn ends there. We'll get rid of them soon. So now we single crochet all around the hind leg, so 8, and this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull that yarn end a bit. 7 and 8. And now 1 single crochet in the next stitch of the round here, just to see how it looks. I think it's also pointing forward but slightly outward, like on the other side, so that's great. Good. So I'll keep it that way, and then all we do is make 1 single crochet in the last stitch here. So now all the legs are attached, and in the next round we have lots of decreasing to do. Now I know we have so many yarn ends, and we'll use some of them to close these little gaps in between the legs and the belly. I always find it easier to do this after the next round, so I'll do that one first, and then we can close all of the gaps, and then we can get rid of all these yarn ends. If you want to get rid of them now and you already know how to do it, you can close the gaps now. If you prefer, it's just, I always find it easier when there's a little bit of the body, a little bit more of the body crocheted already. So now in the next round, we start with a decrease. So this time we do a regular decrease, just a decrease in the front loops. So we go in the front loop of the next stitch, and then the front loop of the next stitch. Pick up the yarn, pull it through both front loops, pick up the yarn and pull it through the 2 loops on our hook. And then we single crochet in the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we have 1 more decrease. So we crochet these 2 together, then we single crochet 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we have a decrease again. And next we single crochet 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oops. One of the yarn ends got in there. 4. Now we decrease twice in a row. That's one decrease, and another one. Then we single crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we have another decrease, single crochet 3, 1, 2, and 3, then then decrease, then single crochet 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease, oops, there we go, and then we single crochet in the last 2 stitches of the round, 1 and 2. So here we can secure our stitch now, because next we close these gaps between the legs and body and get rid of all these yarn ends. So let's start by closing the gaps. So out of each leg we have one longer and one shorter yarn incoming. So the longer one, that's actually it doesn't matter which one you use really. That's probably from the magic ring, because I left a very generous yarn in there just to make sure that I can define the feet a little better. So you can use any of these. They're both, for me, they're both long enough. If one is too short, then you can just use the longer one. Thread it on your yarn needle, and now we just stitch through to the outside, close to where we have these little gaps here between the legs and body, and just with 2 little stitches, one through here and then maybe one more back and through the leg, and that's how we close these gaps. Then we just need to weave it in just to secure the yarn end. So I just do this very simply, just stitch through somewhere, maybe twice, and then we can shorten both of these yarn ends a little bit, and we can use them as stuffing for the legs. They don't necessarily need stuffing, but this just gets rid of the remaining yarn ends, and leaving them a little bit longer is more secure, I think, rather than if you want to cut them really short, then you should properly weave them in, which you can also do if you prefer. So I just use my closed scissors carefully to push them in the leg, and if they're too long, then maybe don't do that, because we don't want to change the shape of the leg. It should just be lightly filled. So that's looking good. So that's one leg done, and then I just repeat this with all the legs. Just be careful not to sew in this working yarn end. That happened to me before and that's very annoying. So now all these gaps are closed and we're rid of the yarn ends. They're all inside the leg, hidden inside the legs now. And we only have this one left here that we started the belly with. And this one I'll be using just to close these gaps here that we have because we crocheted both sides of the chain. So we just kind of weave this yarn in through them to close them a little more. Then I just weave it in here on the inside. Just to secure it, and once you feel it secure enough, you can just cut it a little bit shorter and that's it. So I did a little experiment with the next round. That's why it looks like I already worked in the stitches. But I will stick to my original pattern. So the next step that we take is in round 4, we actually create an opening at the center back for the tail. So this is where we will crochet the tail out of later on. And for this, we need to find the 6 stitches in the center back. So for me, and probably for most of us, this is going to be partly in one round and partly in another round, but it's not an issue because all we'll do is we just move the end of the round a little bit further away. That's not a problem. So what we do now before starting the next round is we just figure out which the 6 stitches in the center back are. I'm looking at the back of our little otter here, and so here we have the 2 center stitches, then 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So this is pretty much the center at the back, and now you can count how many stitches of this center back are in the round that we'll crochet now. So for me that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that our round has 34 stitches now, and I have to leave these 4 stitches open to make the opening in the end. So what I have to do is I have to crochet 30 stitches, and for you this number may vary. It's probably going to be something similar, but it may be 29, 28, or maybe 31, 32, something like that. So yeah, just calculate that just so that you know how many stitches to make. So I'll just start with my 30 stitches now. going around. And that's 5. Ten. 15. 20. 25. 30. So, no, I must have made a mistake counting. This should be 30 because I need 4 stitches space here. So now we create this opening here, and we just remove the stitch marker if it's in the way. We'll move the end of the round slightly anyway. And now we chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we skip the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the 7th here we make a single crochet, and that's the opening done. So you can double check and make sure that it's nice and centered, which it seems to be for me. And now this is here is now the new beginning of the round, and in the next round we crochet in all 32 stitches that we now have. So this one counts as the first, and then we just go around and crochet in all other stitches. I have to join a new piece of yarn here because my skein is finished. So now we reach these 4 chains, and we simply single crochet 1 in each of them, just in the back loop of each chain, 1 single crochet. That's 2, 3, and 4. And this is now the new end of the round, and our round has 32 stitches now. Now in the next round we decrease quite a bit, so we start with 2 single crochet, one and 2, and then we decrease. And we repeat this 8 times altogether, so 7 more times. 2 single crochet, and a decrease, that's the second time. 2 single crochet, and a decrease, that was the third time. 2 single crochet, and a decrease, that was the fourth time. 2 single crochet, and a decrease, that was the fifth time, I think. 2 single crochet, and a decrease, that was the sixth time. 2 single crochet, and a decrease, the seventh time, and one more. 2 single crochet, and a decrease, and this was the 8th time. Oh, that's it. So now in the next round we will decrease quite drastically, and so I'm going to fill the body a little bit. We can still fill it more after crocheting the next round, and then we'll also have this opening for the tail just in case we need to fill more, so don't worry too much about it. I just thought I'd better start now. And so in the next round we have 12 decreases in a row. So this here was the last decrease, so this is the first one. And for now I find it helpful to keep, hold the fiber fill inside the body with my middle finger while I crochet. Later on it may get tricky when the opening becomes smaller. So that was one decrease. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I just squish the body together to make my decreases more easily. Nine. 10. 11. 12. So that's the round done. Now our round has 12 stitches, and before we continue with the last round, it would be very helpful to get in a little more fiber fill. So I just push it in every corner with the back of my hook, especially to the front, because here in the back we can add more through this opening. A little bit more. Okay, and now the next round, the last round for the body. So what we do is just 6 single crochet in a row. 6 decreases in a row. So a round of 12 gets reduced to 6. And this is 1. Again, I just squish everything together. This somehow helps me get into the front loops only. That's 2. Three. 4. 5. And 6. So now we can fasten off. Get the fiber fill back in there. And I think it definitely needs more, so I'll just fill it through the opening for the tail here. That should be enough, at least for now. And now we thread this yarn end on our yarn needle and go through all 6 front loops without pulling the end too tightly just yet. Pull tight, and then we go through the center of this last round and pull nice and tight to even out any bumps. And then we can go ahead and weave in the yarn end. And then we just cut it short. It doesn't look very ottery yet, but hopefully we can change that. So next we're going to crochet the tail. So to crochet the tail, we rejoin the yarn here at the opening, and I will rejoin it here in between these chains on top and the stitches below. So what I do is I go through the last or the stitch next to the first proper stitch here that I already crocheted in another round, and I go through that one again to join the yarn here. So all I do is I just pull a loop through this stitch, and then I go ahead and single crochet 1 in each of these 6 stitches that we skipped in that round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then I make 1 single crochet here in the next stitch that we already crocheted in. We already made a single crochet in there in that round that we skipped those 6 stitches, but I go through the same stitch and make another single crochet. Now we move on to these 4 chains, and we single crochet 1 in each chain from the other side. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now here where we're doing the yarn, in there I make another single crochet. And so now our round has 12 stitches. Now in the next round, all we do is single crochet in all 12 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just wanted to make sure I have 12. So we single crochet in all 12. The first one is tricky in my opinion. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So that's round 2 of the tail done. Now I'm just going to hide this yarn end inside, and also if you want you can lightly fill this bit. I think I won't add any more fiber fill, that's probably enough. If you feel like the body needs more fiber fill, now's your chance to add a little more. After that it will get tricky. In the next round we decrease our round of 12 to a round of 9. So if you're here at the same spot, like let's say the upper right side of the tail, which you probably are if you joined the yarn where I joined it, then you start with 6 single crochet, and then we make 3 decreases on top. Just saying that it's important that the decreases go on top, just so that the tail points downward. So we single crochet 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we decrease 3 times. That's 1, 2, and 3. Now in the next round we single crochet in all 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. In the next round we decrease again, and again we put the decreases, we place the decreases on the top side of the tail. So if your placement is like mine, then start with a decrease, then we single crochet 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then we have 2 more decreases. That's one. And 2. So now our round has 6 single crochet, and what we do now is we single crochet in all 6 stitches for the next 5 rounds. So you can pause the video here and hit play once you've completed the next 5 rounds of 6 single crochet. So my 5 rounds of 6 single crochet are done now, and we only have 1 round to go in which we will make 3 decreases in a row. So this is a very tiny round already, so it's not easy, but we got this. So sometimes I just use my nail to just pull the front loop on the hook. It doesn't work in this case, I just have to slowly get it through there. Okay, so that's 1 decrease. That's 2. 1 more. There we go. Okay, that's it. So here we can fasten off. And now we just close this tiny round that we have here. So again, we go through all 3 front loops like we did on the back. And once we've done that, we pull the yarn end tight, and then we just, it doesn't matter where, just weave in the yarn end. Oops. Just weave that in with a few stitches. And then we just cut this short. And that's the tail done. So now what I do next may seem a little bit cruel, but the thing is, because this is a tiny amigurumi, and then I crochet very tightly, and their tail is usually like on the floor like this. So what I do now while we crochet the head is what I do. Maybe you don't have this issue, but I just kind of tie the tail in because I'm hoping that while I crochet the head that it more, more bends in the direction that I want it to go. Because I'm using cotton yarn that's much more firm, and so actually that's a very good thing for amigurumi, but just not in this case. So I'll just make a little tie, and then hopefully it bends more toward the floor, because I don't want the tail to be like in the air. So we'll see how that works. So now we can go ahead and crochet the head, and once again we start with a magic ring. And we single crochet 6 in the magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Close the magic ring. Then in round 2 we increase in all 6 stitches. So we crochet 1 and 2 in the first, 3 and 4 in the second, 5 and 6 in the third, 7 and 8 in the fourth, 9 and 10 in the fifth, and 11 and 12 in the 6th stitch. I just go ahead and close the magic ring more firmly now. So now we just single crochet in all 12 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. It's round 3 done. Now in the next round we single crochet in the next 6 stitches. 1, just place a stitch marker in case in the last stitch. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we increase 6 times. So 1 increase, 2 increases, 3 increases, 4 increases, 5 increases and 6 increases. So now our round has 18 stitches. And now in the next 3 rounds we single crochet in all, well, let's say the next 2 rounds. Honestly, I'm not sure yet because I didn't practice the head yet. So let's say 2 rounds for now. We make 2 rounds of 18 single crochet. So you can pause the video here and hit play once you crochet the 2 rounds of 18 stitches. I crocheted my 2 rounds of 18 single crochet, and I think 2 rounds are enough. So I'll just secure my stitch now because next we can go ahead and embroider the nose and mouth. So now we need our black embroidery floss, black or dark brown, any color you like, and we need our pointy embroidery needle or large sewing needle. Then we just thread it on, and where we made those 6 increases, that's where the face is. So here, this is the 3rd and this is the 4th increase. So you can, this way you can see that this is the head. Maybe I should place my stitch marker in there. So 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. Is that right? 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. No, here. So this is decrease number 3. This is decrease number 4, and in between those, that's where the top of the head is. So this helps us place the embroidery correctly, knowing where that is. So now I just stitched through. We embroidered here on the first round, probably more on the lower part of it. So I just start here. So we embroidered the nose in a kind of almost rectangle shape, but the top is a little bit wider than the bottom side. So I know this shape has a name, but I always forget what it is in English. Anyway, I'm just making vertical stitches. Just need to keep in mind where the top of the head is. Yes, so now I'm quite in the center. So start with the center stitch. So I'm stitching now almost through the center of the magic ring, but with embroidery I don't like to stitch in between stitches. I like to properly go through the fibers, and this way you have way more control over where your stitch goes. So when it feels too easy, then maybe it's not the best thing. So I go through the fibers of the yarn like this, and that's why there's sometimes some resistance, but this way we know exactly where our stitch goes and we have maximum control over that. So I make another vertical stitch close to this one. I'm just trying to determine the outer shape now, and then we can fill the nose with some more stitches. Now the other side, so here we have the center stitch on the left side. Now I make one on the right. Just always get your fingers out of the way, please. Don't hurt yourself. So now I make a few more stitches to fill these two gaps. This does not want to go through. So here our little pliers come in handy. Okay, so now one more stitch in that space there. If you embroider a lot on your amigurumi, then it's really useful to have those pliers. So now at least one stitch on this side, possibly two. One more to fill this little gap here. And back inside. Okay, so I would say that's the nose done. If you want, you can make horizontal stitch on top and on the bottom just to make this line more smooth. I think that on top it looks okay for me. Maybe I make one along the bottom just to make that look more smooth. So I just start on one side and stitch through at the other corner. Okay, and now we go straight into embroidering the mouth. So at the lower center of the nose, I just go through there, and now I just make, I think it should be at least, I want it to be like a half circle almost. So this has to be made up at least of 3 stitches. So first I make a little diagonal stitch, slightly diagonal, could have been more. And I'm doing this with back stitches now, so Now I make an almost horizontal stitch. And go back into the same spot where I made this stitch. Oh, maybe that's enough. Or shall I make a little more? The tiny little stitch. The more stitches I make, the more difficult it will be to replicate those on the other side. So that's always something I like to keep in mind. But I'll just risk it now, and if it doesn't look good, then I'll undo it. So one tiny stitch, a little more up, just so that maybe it smiles a little more. Then I go back through the same spot where I made the last stitch. I don't know, I just go with it for now. So same spot here underneath the nose. I now go slightly diagonally in the other direction to the left. Now in almost horizontal stitch, but slightly diagonal, this one here. And go back through that same spot that I went through for the last stitch. And now a tiny stitch, a little bit upward. Maybe here. So that has two round space with the nose, which would match. Let's see. Trying not to sew my stitch marker on everything. And back through the same stitch. Far from perfect, but I'll leave it like that, I think. If you have very fine embroidery floss, this is my DIY embroidery floss, so it's quite thick. But if these stitches are too thin somehow, and then they don't look round enough, you know, not fluent enough, then you can go ahead and stitch around these, kind of wrap the yarn around these stitches, depending on how long the stitches are. I would wrap it around once, so you just go underneath this stitch with the yarn and with the embroidery floss threaded on, and just go around. Then you go twice through this stitch, which is longer, and then once through this, and this makes everything more smooth and even. I'm sure there are great tutorials out there about this. If you search embroidery for amigurumi, I'm sure there are many talented people who are way better at this than I am. if you want to learn more about that. So here, you can just cut it off, and to secure it, we can just tie these ends together, and then we can go ahead and attach the eyes. Now I forgot to order my most used size, which are 5mm, so now I just have 6 or 4mm eyes, and I'm guessing, well, maybe tiny eyes like this look cute as well, but I think I'd rather go for 6mm. And because these are quite difficult to get in, I need to make some space with my scissors, just thinking maybe here. So you can use your crochet hook also if you have the same issue that I have, because I crochet quite tightly and then I'm using cotton yarn and it's near impossible getting this size safety eyes through there. So I just loosen up the space in between stitches, but very carefully, so this way I can still change my mind and place the eyes somewhere else later. It's very big. But I think, I mean, the nose is giant, so why not? So let's see how it looks if I place one on the other side. So the other side maybe here. No, further outward here. I think I keep them there. Giant little. So once you're happy with where the safety eyes are, you can go ahead and secure them. So now that the face is done, we can go ahead and add some fiber fill in there. Also, this yarn end can be hidden in there. We just want to make sure that we have fiber fill around the safety eyes. So for this, I'm making very small fiber fill balls. So that they fit in there. Just get one here in between. And that should be enough for now. We can add more later. So now we can continue. Oops. Continue with the head and neck. I'm just thinking if it's really enough. I do think now that with this giant face that we need another round of 18 single crochet. So that's what we'll do first. I tried decreasing here, but I don't think it works. So one more round of 18 single crochet. That's it. And now in the next round we can go ahead and decrease. And so we single crochet one, and then we decrease, and we repeat this 6 times altogether, 5 more times, so that we'll have a round of 12 stitches in the end. Decrease, single crochet, decrease, and one more time, single crochet and decrease, and now our round has 12 stitches. We can add a little fiber fill. I would just add it as we go. So now we single crochet in the next two rounds. We single crochet in all 12 stitches. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just trying not to crochet in the fiber fill. 11 and 12, and then one more round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now we can just see how it looks. If it looks like, no, definitely not longer than this. So we can fasten off here, and we need to leave a long yarn in for sewing, so just keep that in mind. So now our little otter just needs some cute little otter ears. And because they are so tiny, I'm going to embroider them rather than crocheting them and sewing them on. And I'll be using the same yarn that I used for the head and body. And I'll embroider them with the yarn needle, simply because here I can, this is yarn that I'm embroidering with, and I can go in between stitches. That's not a problem in this case. It doesn't require that much definition. So now I just have a look at where the eyes are, and then I just go a few rounds back, and then I just go through the spots. I think the placement is good, and here I just make a few stitches, just going through the same spot a few times. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the placement is good, so just a few more stitches maybe. 4, 5, 6, and with this 7th stitch I'll stitch through to the other side to repeat it for the other ear. So it needs to be the same spot. I guess that's it. Or here, no. That looks good. That makes 7, so now we need 7 stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and with the 7th stitch I'll just stitch through somewhere to to weave in the yarn end. Just with a few stitches to make sure that the ears are secured this way. And then I can just go through this opening and use the rest as a stuffing. And then we do this with the other yarn end here. So, oops. So now we can go ahead and attach the head to the body. So I'm leaving the tail as it is for now. Hopefully that works. I don't want it all to not to work just because of the tape. That's supposed to be the easy part. I don't know what happened there, but anyway, we just go and attach the head now. So I'm using 2 pins to make sure that it's positioned the way I want it to. So I just pin it in place. Careful, don't poke yourself. And now I just look at it from all sides to make sure that it's centered. And if that's the case, then I thread this long yarn end on my yarn needle, and especially for sewing on body parts, it's so helpful to have a needle with a bent tip. So if you don't have one of these, check out the link in my description box below. I link to these. They come in sets of 2s or 3s from Clover, and they're really helpful. So now I work my way around this way, and I just start by stitching through the body, then through the head. So just through the next stitch of the head. And this side is now attached, so I can remove the pin. It's just in the way now. And then we go through the next stitch. Well, it's not a stitch, but just find a small stitch to go through on the body, and it should be as close to the neck as possible because we want the stitches to be nice and neat and small. Pull it tight, and then the next stitch of the neck here. And this way we just work our way around. One stitch through the body, one stitch through the neck. Just sometimes make sure that it's looking right. Otherwise you go continue and then suddenly it's very tilted. Here, for example, I think I have to add one more stitch in this spot, otherwise the head will tilt too much. Ooh, the tail has freed itself. I think it worked. Yay! So relieved. One more stitch through here, and now we have 2 stitches left here on the neck. And one more to go here, and from here I stitch straight through to wherever I want to weave in the yarn end. This can come off. Here again, the pliers are very useful. So, okay. Now, just weaving in this yarn end here. And then we cut this short. So if the trick with the tail didn't quite work, you can repeat that, and then if you have one of those spray bottles with water, filled with water, you can just make it a little bit damp and then leave it to dry, similar to what we do with blocking when we crochet clothing or blankets or things like that. And this should do the trick. I kind of want it to be like this, because usually when they come out of the water, they're just should somehow touch the floor. But yeah, we can get this sorted. We can even keep it like this for a bit, and then it will probably stay in place. Now, after consultation with my husband, it turns out that our otter needs some whiskers. So I'll be using this cream colored embroidery floss for that, but I'll divide it. So I'll just cut a piece off. My husband is always very good at looking at my amigurumi and seeing if something is missing. So sometimes I ask him, like, is this okay, or should I add something more? And so I'll just trust him and go with it. So I divide them into 6 pieces, and then one by one we stitch them on. For this I can use a finer needle, a sewing needle. Just looking in my little box. Here it is. So just thread this on. And then we stitch through close to the nose somewhere. Oops. Okay. That's one. Then close next to it, we'll attach another one. That's it. We'll trim them later. I can already see that he was right. Needs these whiskers. So where do we put this? Here maybe. a little bit further away now. Further away from the nose, I mean. Let's put one here. And the last one. Where do we put this? Maybe here. Okay. So now, in order for them to stay in place, I mean, they don't come off easily. And they usually hang down the sides, but I still like to separate them a little bit, and I'll do that with some glue, but I need to put a glove on first. So now we need some glue. It doesn't have to be super glue. This is just something that I did with my cat tutorial, the standing cat. So if you've made that, then you'll know what I'm doing. I just put a drop on my finger. And then I just take one of the whiskers and just slide the glue along. And of course they won't be as long. Oops, this one came out easily. So we'll trim them later. For now, I just want them to firstly stay in place so they don't come out as easily, and also make them a little bit more sturdy, because I want them to be as fine as they are, but more stiff somehow. And then we want them to be separate. So just try to make sure that they don't stick together. That's one side done. So I shortened them a little bit already just to help them not get stuck to each other. Then we can repeat this on the other side. Some more glue. Should be enough for all of them. I'll just do them all together and separate them later. I think that's easier. Oops, that was my needle. So maybe I'll first of all take the glove off so I don't stick to anything. Cut them a little bit already. We'll cut them more in a bit and then just separate them so they don't stick together. This has to happen quickly, especially because I used super glue. So once they dry, we can shorten them. Because for otters they are facing down a little bit, I just push them down to kind of get in this right direction, and then I just trim them to the right length. Anyway, what I think is the right length. And now if you really want them to be like to don't come out, you can apply a little bit of glue to a pin or something like this, something that you don't mind ruining, and then just carefully apply some glue at these spots. And of course it should be glue that's later that doesn't turn white when it dries, so it should remain see-through. So this way you can add some whiskers to the otter. Okay, hubby approved the whiskers. So now I can show you what I mean by really securing them, at least more than they are secured now. So I'll just take this, maybe this side of a pin, sewing pin. Just try to get a tiny bit of glue out, enough to apply it to the head of the pin, and then I just apply tiny amounts here to the roots. Repeat that. Yep, there we go, squeezing out the last bit. Some more to this one, some here. Now the other side. Okay. Now this should be fixed. So our little otter is done now. Thank you so much for crocheting along with me. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up for me. That would be super helpful. And also make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications, so make sure to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future amigurumi tutorials. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have a lovely Sunday and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Happy crocheting.